Hey everyone. So today's video is packed with a bunch of cross-border reports that we're not really hearing too much about anymore. The Epstein files, MTG's resignation, anything about Trump, all that circus is taking the spotlight these days. But it doesn't mean that the impact on the US economy has gone away. The first report is from CTV, still showing that the boycott is still working, even though it's not on the front page anymore. The second report is an article out of Bellingham. And I remember one of our viewers asking if there was any news from Whatcom County. This area used to be a regular spot for me, so I was pretty interested to see what's going on there. The third report is out of Buffalo. Even with events happening in their city, they're still struggling. And lastly, I want to touch on a piece from City News about the US senators who visited Canada. Belle of the Ranch just recently did a video about this. She even asked a question on whether Canadians consider the US adversaries now because of what's going on.
The idea that Canadians now don't think of Americans as their friends and their neighbors, but as an adversary. I would hope that Canadians don't think of us as an adversary, but I'm sure they don't think of us as a leader in the alliance anymore. Maybe a Canadian channel like Guard the Leaf can give us a better sense of how they're feeling.
I'll be giving my response later on in this video. And thank you, Belle, for wanting to hear the thoughts from north of the border. Today's backdrop comes from Zane, who visited Canada this summer from Denmark. In his email, he told me he checked out Niagara Falls, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec City, and said he had a great trip all around. Thank you, Zane, for the photo, and I'm glad you enjoyed your time in Canada, and thank you as well for supporting our economy. All right, let's get started with the first report.
The busiest travel season of the year is just around the corner, and it appears many Canadians are not yet ready to return to the U.S. Stats show cross-border travel between the two countries continues to nosedive, and that is having an impact on U.S. businesses. CTV's Natalie Van Roy is live in studio with more on this. Natalie.
Patricia, some U.S.-based businesses close to the border are hoping Canadians return for the holiday season because they are already feeling a major pinch. Jules Landry and his wife are checking in for their annual trip down south to Florida. But this year, it feels different.
Apparently this year, there's a bit less Canadians going down. Very sad because, the Americans were always our friends and neighbors. And now, unfortunately, we have, the political climate that's causing a bit of an issue.
Now, before you pile on this guy for going to Florida, we need to remember that everyone is free to do whatever they want. It's disappointing, sure. But some people value Florida more than their own country. He's right about one thing, though. We were always neighbors, and we will always be. There's nothing we can do to change geography. But always our friends? I question that. And I question whether 77 million of them were ever our friends to begin with. Now listen to how the language and the tone is the complete opposite with this next Canadian who was interviewed.
I haven't traveled to the States since Trump first got elected. I couldn't go. And it's nothing about the people there. They're all wonderful, but it's the thought that counts.
I think the GTL community is right there with her. It is the thought that counts. And for me, it also goes against my values to support the Trump-run United States. I would disagree with her on one thing, though. They're not all wonderful, but there are some wonderful people in the United States who genuinely support Canada. People like Josh from the Enemy From Within, Belle of the Ranch, and the many US citizens who support my channel.
In September, the number of return trips from the U.S. by Canadians dropped nearly 31% compared to the same time last year. Those like Reese Paquette say they would rather go somewhere else to spend tourism dollars.
I have family in the Bahamas and one of the family islands. And I just found out Porter flies directly there, so I don't have to fly through the state. So maybe that.
Statistics also show a major drop-off in crossings at the Ogdensburg-Prescott International Bridge, slashing toll revenue collection by more than $841,000 so far this year, with bridge traffic in October down nearly 40,000 crossings year over year.
It's not just the border town businesses that are losing money. The bridge is losing revenue as well. I actually have another report about the Ogdensburg Bridge, and they go into detail about how the drop in crossings is starting to put them in a bit of a pickle. But I'll save that for another video.
And that is hurting businesses on the U.S. side like Market on Main in New York.
I've definitely had a notable decline in customer traffic. And that really hurts, not just the traffic, but the sales as well.
Owner Kelly Clark hoping her Canadian customers come back.
We miss our neighbors. I've been in business since 2022, and I've gotten to know quite a few people from Canada, and I've missed them. I miss hearing, the updates from their families and what's going on in their lives.
And right now is the time that many Canadians are thinking about winter break plans. And it will be interesting to see if this trend continues into the new year. Patricia.
Well, I'm pretty sure this trend is going to continue until at least 2028, minimum. You remember that report I did on the Martin House, where the CEO said that they've noticed the drop in Canadians? They understand why. And now they're preparing to readjust for the rest of 2025, all the way to 2028. That CEO gets it. And I said in my previous video, that she's one of the few business representatives who actually understands that we're not coming back. And I respect that a lot more than someone trying to beg us, give us discounts, promo codes, or discount golf balls and 2-for-1 pizzas. Now, this next article comes out of Bellingham, Washington, which I'm all too familiar with, and I'm sure many of my West Coast viewers are as well. The article goes into the usual spiel about how travel numbers are down at all border crossings, Peace Arch, Pack Highway, Sumas, Linden, and it says it's down by at least 29%. It also talks about how that's impacting their economy and how Canadians are a big part of it, yada, 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 whatever. But the part I wanted to show you is the monthly border crossings compared to 2024, specifically the BC volume. British Columbians are making it very clear that we're not putting in the effort to give a dime to the Whatcom County economy. Consistently over 37% down, and in some months, in the upper to mid 40s. One month we even hit 50%. I was one of them. I used to go to Blaine at least twice a month to pick up packages, then head to Bellingham for lunch, Costco and Trader Joe's, and then we head back. A part of me does miss the day trips across the border. The parcel pickup place I used back then, I actually got to know the staff and they were very nice. But I closed my account with them back in February. I know our actions and boycotts are hurting people in Whatcom County, who probably didn't vote for Trump. And I really don't know how to support the ones who are fighting the Trump regime while still continuing the boycott. But I also do know that there's a sizable amount of US citizens who want Canada to cease to exist, or who flat out don't want us in their country. I bring this up because at the Bellingham Costco back in 2011 or 2012, somewhere around there, I, along with 5 or 6 other cars with BC plates, were left a note on our windshield saying, "Go back to fucking Canada." I brushed it off, and I never really thought about it again until this year, January 2025. I'm not afraid to admit that I've been pretty naive when it comes to our neighbors. A lot of people have seen the relationship has been one way for decades, while I just never really paid attention to all the details. But when I look back at the incidents like the one I mentioned earlier, and all the snarky comments from the US citizens about how Canada is the little brother, or USA Junior, or how we have funny looking money, it just makes me rethink all those so-called memories from my day trips in Bellingham and Seattle. Those aren't good memories to me anymore. Which is why when I see the border crossing numbers dropping, yeah, it does make me happy inside. And I know for a fact that I will never contribute to those crossings again. I apologize, everyone. I went on a bit of a rant here. 13 years later, after that note was left on my car, I'm now bitter about it. But if you agree with me on my thoughts and that little rant, let me know in the comments below. And if you agree and you're not subscribed yet, help this average Canadian channel grow by hitting that subscribe button. Now, if you want to read the rest of the article, the link is in the description below. And I guess on a positive note, the article didn't mention the exchange rate once. I guess that's a bit of progress. Now let's move on to the report out of Buffalo, who is also suffering. But take note of how there's zero mention of the missing Canadian money.
Despite several events happening in downtown Buffalo this past weekend, restaurant owners tell us foot traffic was still low. Our Patrick Ryan spoke with a small business owner about their struggles downtown as others are being forced to close their doors. Patrick.
Kelsey, business in downtown Buffalo is a big topic for those, of course, who live and work in the area. And among recent closures, the list includes Toutant, Masuda Chow's, Deep South Taco, and Ted's Hot Dogs most recently.
Now, I've never been to Buffalo, but did any of our viewers used to head south there for a day trip or shopping? Have you ever heard of any of these restaurants that were just listed that are now closed? If you have, let us know in the comments below.
Dinosaur Barbecue also closed its downtown doors and is headed to Hamburg. Meanwhile, Mexican restaurant Hombre y Lobo recently posted online here, spreading the word about their struggles as a small business. We spoke today with an owner there of the 4-year-old Swan Street Bar and Restaurant. He says there's been a decline in foot traffic even when there are big events downtown. Take Friday, for example. Paul McCartney was in town, Wicked at Shays and Dion Dawkins received the key to the city. He says they didn't even go on a wait.
It's a struggle. It's a big struggle. And I think people come in and they've seen us be busier before and they're shocked that we don't have people in, and we are as well. But
I'm not sure why this guy is shocked, unless he's been living under a rock. This is just my opinion, and you can agree or disagree with me. The US economy is down the toilet. The tariffs are making everything more expensive, including the things you need to run a business. Consumer cost is going up, and people just can't afford to go out anymore. But I'm also going to guess that he's lost some cross-border money as well. Money that a lot of border town businesses took for granted, and still probably take for granted. So when I hear businesses in border towns are closing down, I'm not surprised at all.
it's really tough to come in and put your everything into a positive experience, delicious food. And there's so much work that goes into all these things before you even open your door. And then to sit there and not have people come in, it's tough.
Go up to Toronto every now and then, and I mean, there is something going on. I know it's like way bigger and stuff. And it's like, you know, obviously we're a fraction of the size of Toronto, but there's something going on every night. You can find something even on a Monday night. So it'd be nice if they did a little bit more kind of stuff to where, you know, there's stuff going on in the city you might want to come and see.
Jimmy there, who works downtown, talking to us about what would be nice to see in the area of downtown Buffalo. And despite the struggles, the owner of Hombre y Lobo tells us he still loves Buffalo, and he simply wants people to remember that they're there like so many others.
Again, I've never been to Buffalo, so I don't know what it's usually like when it's actually busy. But what I do know for a fact is that Toronto, along with a lot of other cities across Canada, were packed with tourists this past summer. Events everywhere, lots of people around, and people enjoying the city. And I guess the main difference is this. Toronto and our country in general is welcoming. We don't have ICE agents roaming around to try to detain people. I hate to say it, but I don't think it's going to get better for at least the next 3 years. Now, I quickly want to talk about a quote that was mentioned by a US Senator at the Halifax International Security Forum this past weekend. I'm not going to go into the whole event because we're already past the 12-minute mark of this video. But there was a quote from the conference that I did want to bring up, and it came from an independent US Senator named Angus King. The quote was, "But the deeper problem is the cultural break. The idea that Canadians don't think of Americans as their friends or neighbors, but as adversaries." Belle of the Ranch goes into great detail about what happened at the forum, so I definitely recommend you check out her video. She also talks about that idiot Tom Tillis, who's just repeating the Trump rhetoric word for word. I'm glad that Belle stood up for Canada in her video, and I really appreciate it. But she did ask a question, so let's play it again.
The idea that Canadians now don't think of Americans as their friends and their neighbors, but as an adversary. I would hope that Canadians don't think of us as an adversary, but I'm sure they don't think of us as a leader in the alliance anymore. Maybe a Canadian channel like Guard the Leaf can give us a better sense of how they're feeling.
Well, first off, Belle, I really appreciate the shout out on your channel. My inbox was flooded with people telling me that you mentioned my channel, and I'd be happy to give my average monotone Canadian point of view. I'll answer this question first. Do you think the United States is a leader in the alliance? You're correct in your assumption, and honestly, the US administration is isolating themselves not just from Canada, but the rest of the world. On the government level, they've proven in just the last 10 months they cannot be trusted. Any promise, any agreement, any deal can be broken at any moment. Personal gain is more important for them than taking care of their own citizens, and we're watching this across the border. When it comes to the alliance between Canada and the United States, this year and the damage that has been done is something that majority of Canadians will remember for the rest of their lives. And for many, it's something that can never be repaired. This is why on my channel, I keep saying that 2025 is a fundamental shift in how many of us see the United States moving forward. Now, do I consider the US an adversary? To be honest, this is actually a tough question for me to answer. For many Canadians who are boycotting your country, their answer is probably yes, on the government level and yes, on the citizen level as well. But for me, I've always had a constant tug of war. One side of me just wants to say, screw the US, you're on your own, you brought this on yourselves. But the empathetic side of me knows that not all US citizens voted for this. I have close friends and family in California, Hawaii, and Las Vegas who completely disagree with how their country treats Canada and even treats their own citizens. I've made great friends through this channel, everyday US citizens who have emailed me to apologize for what their country is doing to Canada, and creators like you and Josh from The Enemy From Within, who continue to support Canada and call out your own government. So for me, calling the US an adversary is not a simple yes or no. The current US administration and the 77 million who voted for and encouraged this mess, yes, I consider those people adversaries. But those who didn't vote for this? It's a yes and no. Yes, because some still don't fully understand how deep the US exceptionalism runs and how much damage it has caused. And no, because many of them genuinely want change for the United States, they stand with Canada and are fighting back in their own way. And just for the record, Belle, none of this is directed at you. In fact, it is refreshing to see a US YouTuber who actually understands what Canadians are feeling right now. What I do know is that one day, hopefully, things will go back to some kind of normal collaboration between our two countries. I'm not saying relationship because that trust is broken. And the right, they've shown their true colors in 2025. And that's something a lot of Canadians won't forget. I think moving forward though, many Canadians and even our international allies are going to proceed with caution when it comes to the United States. And it's sad that it has come down to that. But I do want to ask you a question, Belle. And maybe it's something you can use the next time you do a video answering questions from Canadians. So here's my question for you. Many Canadians like me are continuing our boycott of US travel and US products, even though we understand that not all US citizens voted for Trump. So my question is, how do we support the US citizens like yourself, Josh, and even my US viewers who didn't vote for Trump and who are actively fighting against the current US administration while maintaining our boycott? I know many of you in the US genuinely support Canada, and we truly appreciate it. I'm just not sure how we support you while continuing the US travel and product boycott at the same time. I'd love to hear your feedback on this, Belle. I really do hope there's some kind of normalcy in the future. And if any of your viewers are watching this right now, I hope my message helps to clarify how a lot of us in Canada are feeling up here. But this is just my opinion. But I'm going to guess that there are plenty of Canadians who agree with me, or at least parts of what I said. And Belle, I appreciate you reaching out and wanting to hear an opinion from north of the border. Okay, so that's it for today's video. It's gone on a little bit longer than I expected. But let me know in the comments what you think my take is on Belle's question. Did I miss anything? Or do you agree or disagree? Let me know down below. If you're still here all the way to this point, I really appreciate you sticking around to the end. And if you are still here, bonus photo of my new producer telling me how to make my videos. I thought this was pretty funny. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.